Welcome back to Memory Lane Motorworks and Project Ratbird, the 1957 Ford Thunderbird we started in the last video. Had a progressive week last weekend, or work night, whatever you want to say. A couple of my buddies came down and I told them, I said, hey look guys, I'm going to turn the camera off. Let's just have a night to haul tail on the car. I got a bunch of parts sitting here, need put on the car. Let's just get on that. I'll pick up filming next time I come down here. Welcome to that time. And we'll see what we can get done tonight. And man, you stick 3 people, motivated people on a car, give them a task to do, helps have a nice shiny new part sitting around, and a lot can get done. So let's get you updated to where we're at. This should be a brand new complete set of stainless steel brake lines that I picked up this week from sstubes.com. I'll put the link in the description. I have high hopes for this. Turns out they were local to me, just a couple towns up, about 20 minutes up the road from where I live. And they specialize in regular steel and stainless steel brake lines, custom bent, factory bent for many cars on the road today. And many cars that were on the road yesterday as well. So, found them, I don't know, 6 months back. Haven't ordered anything from them yet. Haven't opened this box yet. So before I go on recommending people and stuff, I should probably crack this open and see what's in here. It's got a full set of brake lines for the car, front and rear, up to the master, whatever you want to say, for I think it was a little over $150. And it was $10 more for the stainless steel option versus the regular steel. It was a no-brainer to me. These are all supposed to be custom bent, flared, with the fittings on them, I hope. And kind of plug and play option. So at that point, you're spending a little more money, but you're saving a lot of time bending line, flaring lines, cleaning old fittings if you're using those, or finding the right thread pitch and such for the new ones if you're going that route. My time's worth a bit of something, so I just decided it's a good enough car. Stainless steel, shouldn't have to ever worry about replacing them again. Spend a little money and get the good stuff. So let's see what we got in here. Boy. So they even come with rubberized coating on them as well. All the flares look really nice. Fittings look good on there. And they're all labeled too. If you can't figure out which one you just took off where it goes, it's even idiot proof for folks like me. So that's perfect. These actually have the original looking wraparound springs on them. I went up to this place actually, and it looked just like a shipping facility. I excuse me, was really hoping to get a tour, and I'm assuming they're CNC bent. They've got all the specs for every car out there, and these are all computer controlled bent lines. Really wanted to see the facility, but kind of looked just kind of like a shipping hangar. I don't think they're used to walk-in traffic up there. So I dealt with a lady at the counter. She was real nice and everything. And it was kind of, here's your parts and have a nice day type deal. So I didn't push the issue too much, but if I go back up there I intend to maybe poke and prod a little more and hopefully get a tour out of it. So. Everything looks really nice though, and I don't want to make those bends. I really don't, and let's be honest here, they would not look like that if I did it. I'd make it so it would work, but that should be pretty darn close to factory bends on the car at least, so I'm kind of excited about this. I've never had this nice of a setup. Everything seems to be boxed really nice. I'm gonna go ahead and go out on a limb and go ahead and recommend these folks to you guys out there. Looks to be really fine quality stuff, and I hope it fits up to the car okay. One thing's for sure, we'll find out. I'm not gonna bother opening these boxes yet. There's something in there, so we'll find out here eventually. Looks like I spent a lot of money and I got a lot of work to do now, so I guess we should probably get started on the car. So. New brakes. Front and rear, check. Shoes, retainer springs, return springs, wheel cylinders, and as you can see, the new brake lines are on as well. One rear hose going to a new brake line that goes to the front. All the brake lines are installed on the car, and guys, that was the easiest brake line job I have ever done in my life. Those were a walk in the park. Everything fit darn near perfect. I think I had to hand tweak maybe a line or two that was just off, whatever, probably from installing and shoving them up in the frame of a car. Other than that, it's like putting a puzzle together. No hand bending, no cutting to length, no flaring, no cutting your really nice flare back off because you forgot to put the fastener on. None of that. I think this is going to be the route from here on out. Just gonna go visit my friends up the road and order brake line kits for whatever I'm working on. That and it's stainless steel. This car will be scrapped with these brake lines. They should never need another set again, despite living in the wonderful salt state of Ohio. Well, I had the lines off. I rebuilt the rear end. Made it look a little better. There's something about black on stainless steel. It's just appealing to the eye. And figured there wasn't a better time than right then and there to at least throw a little paint where the lines were. Therefore, I can go back later, touch up the rest of this frame when I'm not fighting around brake lines and such. So, those got done. Transpan got dropped. Rest of the high C or whatever was in there got drained out. Filter changed. It is empty right now. Just left the car in the air. Excuse me. But it is cleaned out, ready for some new fluid. We drained the oil as well. New filter. Got oil ready to go back in it. I just went today to pick up some fluids. That's probably the original starter, guys. Look at that. Pretty neat. But anyways, we still got a list and a bunch of stuff to do. I've got a deadline on this car. Not to be done, but for me to be done working with it here shortly due to the fact I've got some other stuff I need to finish up this winter. So, let's get to that and see where we're at. Alright guys, so here's our list. What we've got left to do. Looks like some of this stuff we can cross off. Brake lines are done. Brakes are done. Fuel tank we still have to put in. I pulled the filler neck out of the car, and there's a lot of sediment, crystallized old fuel sitting in the bottom of the filler neck. I've currently got it in the parts washer. It's been in there for about a week. Hopefully it broke some of that crap up. We can get that cleaned up, get that put back in the car, in the tank. I looked for a price for a new one. They went like $220. I'm not about that life for a filler neck. So we're going to make do with what we got, I hope. Ordered a fuel hose. This would be from the frame to the fuel pump. If you remember the first video, it kind of broke off in my hand. It's a specialty hose. Had to order it, but I got it here now. There is a brake hose from the booster down to the junction block on the frame. I ordered that as well, another specialty component. Got that here. Got the shocks here they need to get put on the car. Radiator hoses are both in miserable shape, if you guys remember from the first video. Hopefully I got that right upper hose in. We'll see. One of the cooler lines going to the bottom of the radiator's got a leak. Looks like it has some damage right there at the radiator. I'm going to put a couple wrenches on it and see if it'll tighten up. Probably not. We'll have to check into that, see what we got to do. Exhaust, that's kind of optional equipment here. Sounds pretty good, open headers, but probably should do something about that someday, but that's definitely last on the list. I just kind of put these next two on here because, well, I'm dumb, and I'll forget to do those things. So if they're on the list, I'm less likely to forget to do those. And our cruise control problem, I just know we go take it down the road the first time. Those back butterflies are going to stick open, and, well, we might have a problem on our hands. So that carb probably has to come back off, tear that whole butterfly assembly apart and see what we can do to free those up. I think I'm missing a return spring there too somewhere. We'll have to check into that. This is all I can think of right now, and boy, if all this gets done, we'll be a major step ahead. At least back to where we were, car on the ground running, take it down the road, and then we find out what else we need to put into it. So, let's get going. Hey, I'm back, and I got updates. Buddy came back down. We had another super productive night on the car. And guys, it's just about coming down to the moment of truth here. Will this car leave the garage under its own power since probably the 1970s? That's where we're at right now. That's a long time. That's 50 years of pushing. From shop to shop, from house I've lived in to house I've lived in, pushing. Yeah, we're not going to push anymore. Let's get to the list and see where we're at. Checklist as of last night. Fuel tank, done. Fuel hose, on there. Brake hose, done. Shocks, we'll say half. We got the rears done. Optional equipment at this point. We still got the fronts to do, so we'll just kind of half cross that out. We'll get to the front shocks eventually. Radiator hoses, miraculously, they fit. Not great, but they did fit. They are on the car. Trans line, that nervous time, tightening fittings that were leaking, that shouldn't have been leaking, that shouldn't have been loose, but were loose. Putting line wrenches on them. They actually tightened back up. That leak is gone. Until we drive it anyways. It quit dripping. Exhaust, someday. Right now, it's open headers. Why? Because race car, that's why. Got oil in it. Trans fluid. Oh yeah, butterflies. Nah, we're gonna live life on the edge today. I don't intend on putting the pedal that far down. And hopefully the brakes work good enough. They really have no excuse not to. They are totally brand new. We got them bled out last night, no leaks. Car's off the rack. It's the moment of truth, guys. Will this thing leave the garage under its own power? Let's just say it for the first time in 50 years. Let's find out. There it is, guys. '57 Ford Thunderbird. Will it run and drive? Yes, it will. Is it pretty? No. Do we care? Also, no. No, we don't. She is mobile for the first time in a long time. Now we can begin the process of cleaning up and making it look good. What do you think? I'm excited. It's a big moment for me. Like I said, since I was in diapers, this car was an inanimate object, and now it is absolutely not. And where we go from here, I guess you guys will be along for the ride. Makes me happy. Alright, welcome back to the channel. We are actually sitting here with my mom. Mom, thank you so much for doing this. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
And if anybody knows the story on the Thunderbird, it would be her, because she was here to live it with my dad. So, Mom, I'd like to start out. Maybe you could tell some backstory on why the Thunderbird came about, and kind of go from there.
Sure.
If you want to.
Okay. All right. Well, back in the early to mid '60s, your dad, before I ever met him, while he was in high school, he bought a 1957 Thunderbird, and he graduated, and less than a year later he got drafted into the service, into the Army. And unfortunately, he wasn't making enough money that way to afford the car payments for the T-Bird.
That was the Vietnam War that came about in the mid-60s?
The mid-60s, yeah.
Okay.
So he had to sell his Thunderbird, which he truly loved. So anyway, we were married later on in the '60s. I never did see that Thunderbird because he'd already sold it, but he always wanted another one. He wanted to replace it.
Okay.
So we got married in 1968, and in the early 1970s, we were living in the Worcester area, and he was working for a local water well driller, drilling water wells.
Okay.
And he was, one day he was working at drilling a well about an hour away from where we lived. And he went into town to get some lunch. And he was asking around whoever he, came across if anybody knew of anybody that had a Thunderbird for sale.
It sounds like Dad. Yeah.
And sure enough, somebody knew somebody that had a Thunderbird that he thought was for sale. And your dad asked him what year it was, and the man he was talking to said he thought it was a 1956, but he wasn't sure. And so that piqued enough interest for your dad that he wanted to locate where the car was and talk to the man and take a look at the car.
Dad really wanted another 57.
He wanted a
56
57.
being close enough, he was still interested enough to go look at the car.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and the other thing that's true is a lot of people don't really know the difference between 55, 56, and 57s anyway, so...
They look pretty close.
They look pretty close to a lot of people. So he got the name and the address of the person, and interestingly enough, the street the man lived on, the first part of the name of the street was the name of the guy that had the Thunderbird.
No.
And the last name of the street was Wood, which is our last name, obviously. So anyway, he went and looked at the car, and it was the 1957 Thunderbird, which was wonderful.
Which was even better, yeah.
Which was even better.
That's exciting.
Yeah, and it was in a garage. It had been stored in a garage since either the late 50s or the early 60s. The man that had it had bought it for his daughter to go to college in. and this man was the second owner of the car.
Okay.
So his daughter drove it back and forth to college, and when she was finished with college, she gave it back to her dad, and he parked it in the garage, and it had been sitting in that garage ever since.
So, Dad bought it in the early 70s, you said, and it had been sitting at least 10 years prior to that.
Yes.
Which would, on the better end of things, be
Yes.
the mid-60s, and the car is a 57.
Yes.
So really, the car had only been on the road for maybe 9 or 10 years.
Yeah.
While this
At
girl
the
drove
most.
it to school, and maybe that's where the 51,000 miles
Right.
went
Yeah.
on the car.
Yeah, when he saw the car, it had 51,000 miles on it. When we bought it, it had 51,000 miles on it, and it still has 51,000 miles
It
on it.
does, yeah.
Maybe a few more miles beyond what it initially had when we bought it, but yes.
I started working on it, and the odometer actually shows 51,666, which
Okay.
concerned me a little bit, but I'm going to take it a mile down the road and get rid of that superstition on it. But yeah, the car's still got 51,000
Yeah,
miles on
it
it.
does.
So.
And the other interesting thing about the car, it still had a license plate on it, and the first three numerals, or the first three digits of the license plate, were the same first three digits of our phone number at the time.
Oh, wow.
Which was even, more interesting.
Some more irony to the story.
Irony, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so anyway, he bought the car, and just as an aside, the guy had it stored in this garage, and he had a braided rug laying on the top of it, which came with the car.
Oh, wow.
Which made me happy at
An
the
added
time.
bonus.
Anyway, anyway, we decided, to get the car home. So your dad, it ran, so your dad was going to drive it home.
Mm-hmm.
And he in fact did start driving it home, and about a third of the way home, he got pulled over by a sheriff's deputy.
That must run in the
because
family or something. I don't know.
Really didn't have any legal plates on it or anything
That
like
must
that.
run in the family too. I don't know anybody else that does that. But.
And your dad told the deputy his story, and your dad had this kind of luck. He was able to talk himself out of a ticket, but the deputy wanted him to stay off the main highway, obviously, which of course he had planned to do anyway, stay off the main highways. So he let him go, and he got about halfway home, and something happened. It must have run out of gas or something. It quit running.
Okay.
So he got a hold of me, and he wanted me to call a friend of his who had a trailer, and see if this friend could bring the trailer to where he was sitting along the side of the road, and they could haul it home, which I did. I got a hold of the man, and they brought it home, and he parked it in front of the house where we lived, and a day or two later, it was still sitting out in front of the house. A day or two later, we had gone somewhere, came back, and discovered that somebody had come and opened the door and must have closed the door by pushing the window.
Yeah.
And it cracked the window.
That's the one piece of
yes.
bad glass on the car. The rest is fine.
Right.
So that makes sense why that is that way now.
Yeah.
Okay.
So unfortunately, that was not a good thing. So at that point, your dad got the car down to a building, a barn, a small barn that we had, and he got it inside of the barn. And it stayed there until we moved from that location. Your dad passed away in the meantime.
Yeah.
And then a few years later,
We moved to
another place,
house, and then-
so the car was transported there.
and all the boxes and stuff that went with it that he'd packaged up, and then
Correct.
and then
Yes.
it did another move down to where we're at now.
That's the way it was. So the car has virtually been stored since that gentleman that we purchased the car off of put it in his garage after his daughter finished driving it to school.
Which we're thinking is the mid-60s or something.
The early to mid 60s, yeah.
And then Dad attempted to drive it home the one time in the 70s when you bought it.
Right.
And that's
right.
the one time it's
That
really
was-
been on the road
Exactly.
since the mid-60s when the car was maybe 10 years old, we'll say. So
Yes. Yeah.
it's been sitting for a long time.
It's been a while, quite a while.
It's a very neat story on the car. It's always fun to hear the backstories on stuff like that and where it began and then the whole story behind it. And Mom, I want to thank you for doing this with me. I really appreciate it. And
You're welcome.
it's fun and kind of be a keepsake. I'll look back and look at this for years to come. And
Okay.
now the story's kind of set in stone, which is exciting. And
Okay. Good.
we'll go from there on. And I intend on doing some more work to the car this summer, and we'll see what becomes of it. But it's up and running again. And
Yes, it's nice to see it up and running and hear it running.
I'm sick of pushing it. I'm just no. It's much easier just to get in and hit the keys.
Yeah.
So.
Yes.
Mom, thank you again for doing this. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
I love you.
Love you too.
So what's next, you say? I want to see if this thing will get cleaned up or not. I want to see if there's anything left of the paint. Might try buff and wheel on it. See if it'll come right back, or maybe the years of sitting have done too much to it. I don't know. We'll have to see. I have to take a break for a little while. I got some other projects coming up, but I'll be getting back on this one eventually. And I encourage you guys to do the same. Get out there, work on your projects, guys. They're not doing any good sitting around in that tree, in the back of the garage, wherever you might have it. Call some friends, grab a few brews, get together, have a good time. It's a lot of fun. As always, I appreciate you guys tuning in, and hope you enjoyed the episode. If you don't mind, maybe hitting that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you want. Hit the little bell. It'll give you notifications when I post more on the car and whatever else I end up working on. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next one.